American Civil War, a civil war in the United States of America. Between the supporting states of the Union was known as the Union, or the Northern and Southern states of the Confederacy, or the South. Who voted to secede from the United States and form the Confederacy of America happened, the main cause of war. The state of slavery was especially the expansion of slavery into the territories that were newly acquired as a result of the American-Mexican War. Shortly before the start of the Civil War in 1860, of America's population of 32 million, about 4 million, approximately 13%, were black slaves, living mostly in the South. Slavery in the United States was a key political issue in the 19th century. The political conflict over slavery that continued for decades eventually led to the Civil War, separatism after Abraham Lincoln's victory in the U.S. presidential election. In 1860, he came of age with his electoral programs against the expansion of slavery. First, 7 slave-holding states declared their secession from the United States to form a confederation or federal government for themselves. After Confederate forces captured several federal government bases in their claimed territories, Crittenden's compromise failed, and both sides prepared for war. When the Confederate Army began the Battle of Fort Sumter in South Carolina on April 12, 1861, just 1 month after Abraham Lincoln's Inauguration Day, the Civil War began. The Confederate government grew to include at least most of the territories of 11 of the 31 states at the time, and made a territorial claim to 2 other states, Missouri and Kentucky. States loyal to their federal government are known as unions. Large volunteer armies were raised, and for years a bloody war raged, especially in the South. During 1861 to 1862, on the Western Front, the Union made significant permanent gains, while the battle on the Eastern Front was inconclusive. In September 1862, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which made ending slavery a war goal. On the Western Front, the Union destroyed the Confederate River Fleet in September 1862, and then he destroyed most of his Western Army and captured New Orleans. The successful siege of Vicksburg in 1863 by the Union Army, it divided the Confederacy into 2 parts at the Mississippi River. In 1863, General Robert Edward Lee's Northern campaign ended with the Battle of Gettysburg. Success on the Western Front led General Ulysses Simon Grant to assume command of the Union Army in 1864, after the Union permanently blockaded Confederate ports from the Atlantic to the Gulf of Mexico. He was able to direct his resources and manpower for an all-out attack on the Confederacy, which led to the fall of Atlanta in 1864 at the hands of General William Tecumseh Sherman and his campaign. He went to sea. The last major battles around the 10-month siege of Petersburg took place at Richmond Gate, the capital of the Confederacy. The war effectively ended on April 9, 1865, when Confederate General Robert Lee, at the Battle of Appomattox, after unleashing Petersburg's Confederate generals across the southern states, Union General Ulysses Grant surrendered, and the final surrender took place on June 23. At the end of the Civil War, many infrastructure facilities in the South, especially the railways, were destroyed. The Confederate government abolished slavery and freed 4 million black slaves. The war-torn country then entered a relatively successful period of Reconstruction to rebuild the country and grant civil rights to free blacks.